Thank you for joining us for another episode of Cryptocurrent. Just one quick reminder. Cryptocurrent is a cryptocurrency and blockchain education platform that's bridging the gap between the curious newcomers who are just discovering the space and the thought leaders who are shaping its future. All opinions expressed by Richard Carthon, the Cryptocurrent team, and their guests on this show are exclusively their own opinions. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Richard, the team, and their guests as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or to follow as financial advice. This show and any other Cryptocurrent production is exclusively for informational purposes. All right, what's going on, everybody? For Cryptocurrent, I'm Stephen Miller, and you are listening to the Aftershock, our weekly show where we catch you up on all things Web3. Today, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Richard Carthon. Richard, how you doing today?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing good. Happy to see the crypto market starting to turn a little bullish. We got a market cap back above $1 trillion, back like 1.1 trillion right now, which is trending in the right directions. Bitcoin's trying to break through this $24,000 threshold. We have Ethereum trying to break through to 1,800. Got a lot of other alts out here trying to break through. So, I'm full optimistic, and it's good to have some optimism after several months of pessimism. So I'm feeling pretty good, Steve. How about you? How are things going for you?
I gotta tell you, man, my energy level is gonna be a little bit questionable today. I had a long weekend in Rocky Point with my family, so it is a little bit drained. But I'm coming back. I'm here to talk all about what's going on in the world of Web3 and make sure that our listeners are well connected, and that's the mission for today, just as it is with every Aftershock episode. So I'm hoping to catch a little bit of a second wind here shortly and start making sure that we keep everybody up to date. I'm really pumped about the NFT market right now. I think that a lot of things are starting to officially shift gears. The most questionable thing I think people have wondered for a while now is like, when are we going to start moving away from free mints? And I think the time is starting to come. I'm very refreshed on that. I think the meta is about to shift, but there are 2 or 3 other free mint projects I think that are going to come in the next week or two. They're going to be worth your attention, but I don't know if we're going to see many more after that, because I think people are starting to, move money back into the NFT market slowly but surely. So I'm excited about it. I think there's a lot more to talk about in the NFT and the crypto space at large. And that's what we're going to do today. So I certainly hope that you guys are all buckled in and ready, because this is the Aftershock. Let's dive right in. The Aftershock. So for those at home that may not know, this is the lightning round where we take you through everything Web3 first. And our top story today is Blackrock partnering with Coinbase to offer institutional investors access to crypto services. Richard, what do you know about this story? What can you tell us?
So it's really interesting about BlackRock is they have one of the largest amounts of assets under management, AUM. I think roughly 5 trillion or some close to that. And by having this partnership, you now have institutional investors that have a direct line to crypto exposure. For a long time, we've been talking about, oh, when is institutional money coming? Oh, when is all this happening? Again, you're dealing with someone who has 5 trillion with the T, like 5x what I talked about earlier. The entire crypto market has 5 trillion assets under management. This is just one company. And now let's say they get to a point where they decide, okay, we want to get some exposure. And let's say they want to put 10%. So, and almost like that, if they decided tomorrow, hey, we're going to try to get to 10% exposure over the next year, the entire market cap would almost double like that. Would one company with one big partnership like this. So this is extremely exciting. And I think it's a first step in big institutional money starting to find more easy access to be able to get diversified into crypto. So I think this is a very bullish signal.
I'd have to agree. I think there was another story out of Coinbase in the last week that was just as bullish. And I think that you've now got big positives on the side of the institutions, but you also have big partnerships coming from the side of like social media and them wanting to make sure that they are providing access to the most users they can on the retail side as well as institutional. So they announced that they're officially rolling out Instagram and Facebook NFT integrations across like more than 100 different countries, and it also including the Flow blockchain in that rollout. So there's a lot that's coming from Coinbase still. I think that it's still very young in terms of like the rest of the market. But the fact that BlackRock is jumping in and you see them partnering across the board with companies like Coinbase, Meta, it's all exciting. So I'm going to keep an eye on this story for sure. There's a lot more to talk about though. Our next one is the Singapore-based crypto lender Hodlnaut has officially suspended withdrawals. I man, like
Here we go again.
it's just the next in like what an onslaught of just continual companies that are just starting to prove like that they're not capable of being a lender or a exchange or a creditor. Like they're all defaulting left and right, and it's just killing all of their user base, which sucks. I know that Singapore-based Hodlnaut was one of the top, I believe, brokers out of Singapore.
Yep.
So this one's definitely a hit. Is it
Yep.
as big of a hit as a Voyager? Probably not.
I don't
But
know if it's as big, but it's still, man, it's a big gut punch, and we still haven't seen the tail end effects of everything with Terra Luna, unfortunately. And it goes back to the core problem of what we're seeing in a lot of DeFi protocols, which there's a lot of companies that are trying to go and address it now. But the idea of what it mean to have credit, like, or to have on file previous history of creditors, because as you're starting to lend out all of this DeFi to, you know, these different people, institutions, whomever, because you don't really know, it's decentralized. If they folded in the past, if they're not someone who's going to be able to pay back their loan, and you just do that over and over again, and you have a cataclysmic event happen, such as a Terra Luna, you wind up back to this position. So what I think is going to come out of this, you're going to start finding more protocols, trying to find ways to see how credit worthy they are before they start to lend this type of money out, because they can't afford to keep doing this.
yeah, I think you're right. I think the one thing that I kind of have a tendency to go down a different path on is just like looking at all of these different agencies and ask myself how many of them can still be over leveraged, right? You would think that after a while they would just get washed out and we would see the full effect happen, but it's not so simple. These things can stretch on for months, and until we see that all of it's washed out, we're not going to see a true recovery. I think we will. I think that everything right now indicates that we are on the way back up, or at the very least into a stabilizing territory because of what you see on the Bitcoin and the ETH rainbow charts. Shout out to our friends over at blockchaincenter.net. If you have not yet learned about those charts, highly recommend that you check those out after the video. But for the like path forward from here, I see that these players need to be shaken out, and it just sucks that Hodlnaut has to be one of those casualties. So we will, of course, keep you updated. I have nothing but hope until we get to the next story. The next story, it has to do with mixing service Tornado Cash. So I don't know if you're familiar with this one, Rich. This came down Monday morning. The U.S. Treasury formally has blacklisted crypto mixing service Tornado Cash and its associated wallets. Now, the associated wallets piece of this is, let's just say a little sus, because they blacklisted some wallets that are actually larger entities. Okay. So I'll break that down for you in a minute here. But I guarantee you there's going to be a crypto native way to look at this and a traditional finance way to look at this. I'm curious how you view this article because I think that I may view it a little bit differently.
Potentially, uh, for those who don't know what Tornado Cash is, it is a way to launder money legally. Well, I don't say legally, but you can launder money because
Private.
you put Huh?
It's laundering it privately, not legally.
You can yeah, not legally, privately. That's definitely not the right. Yeah, that is the right word. Privately is the right word. Legally is not, because laundering money in anywhere is not legal. So Tornado Cash, you can do it, and I'm not advising anyone who's listening to this right now to go launder money. Not doing that, but I'm letting you know that Tornado Cash is a place where you can do that. And again, not saying you should go do that. Whole point being, the U.S. Treasury formally figured out that, like, hey, this is a place they can go do that. We should probably shut this down, and they did it. I'm not really upset about it. I don't know any scenario where you would need to be using Tornado Cash. I just don't. I don't have. Maybe you have some good examples, but I can't pull something to justify using Tornado Cash. So
Yeah, I can't. Is the answer. I think that the reason why I say that my answer is probably a little bit different from yours on this one is because I believe that Tornado Cash should be illegal. I believe that every single piece of it is just, at the end of the day, the on paper definition of money laundering, and that's not something we can like allow to continue happening. But the reason why this eventually came down and like this was the ruling was because it was directly linked to a North Korean hacking group that's state endorsed by North Korea that laundered, like, I want to say it was something like $9 million or $90 million through Tornado Cash. Basically, what they did is they took the money that was stolen, they sent it into parcels. It's like they may have chopped it up into like 10 different movements, where basically it gets thrown into Tornado Cash with a bunch of other people's money, and it then just spins it up and spits it out to another address that they provide it, um, privately and securely. There are ways to still track through Tornado Cash. Like, you can get around it, you can track those payments. There are a lot of different block explorers out there and different crypto forensic companies that have cracked that and know how to do it. So I don't necessarily know if it was necessary to go so far as blacklisting it just yet. And this is why I think I have the more surprising take on this. I think that Tornado Cash should be illegal. I just don't like how they did it. I think that having the US Treasury and the government take this strong-armed approach where they don't even put it in front of in front of Congress, and they just simply legislate because they believe they have the power over privacy, is a little twisted. And I would much rather see something like this be passed through by way of legislation and like really determine what services US citizens should not be able to access for not only their privacy but for their safety and to prevent money laundering. Um, that's the one piece of this that I don't like, is the fact that it was just government overreach, in my opinion. Are they protecting? Yeah, they are, because ultimately it's money laundering. But um, I don't know. I like to believe in the Constitution and like how the Congress should work. Um, that doesn't mean that it does all the time.
yeah, not to spend too much time on this, but a thought that came up, and I really want to just put it out there. And this is completely outside of crypto by far, but on that same track, there are things where the constitutional due process, I do think, isn't necessarily as it should. For example, if someone can go and shoot up a school and then have due process to then have whatever is dealt to them, I don't know if that's necessarily the thing either, right? I think there's a lot of ways that you can like slice the due process piece of this. But again, this isn't a political show. We're not gonna spend a lot of time here, but just know that don't do work with Tornado Cash. The US Treasury just banned it. It's illegal. You go to jail.
Yeah, and to be clear, and it's not meant to go political, but when I think due process, I don't necessarily equate that with what you would gave as the example there. I know that it is, but when I'm talking about due process, I mean from like the legislating perspective, right?
Yeah.
How we go about passing laws and how we go about regulating industries. That to me is something that needs to be put through Congress on a legislative level, as opposed to something like, litigating in order to regulate, which we've seen time and time again in this stupid ongoing SEC case against Ripple. But we'll talk more about that on an upcoming show, I'm sure. So let's jump into our second to last story in the Web3 lightning round this week, and that's very quick one about Cardano's Vasel hard fork. It is the next big move forward for Cardano, which is another Web3 ecosystem project like Ethereum. They will be moving this hard fork forward in September. There's not a lot more to report on that, but this is the next major milestone for Cardano as it continues to roll out globally and continues to bring more and more people into its ecosystem. I think the next update after this should bring Hydra, which I think should be a really, really massive update for multi-chain connectivity. But it's something that enables Hydra. So I'm really excited about it. Hopefully, we can see this start to build Cardano a little bit more momentum into the next cycle. But do you have any final thoughts on this one before we go ahead?
Cardano has to have more use cases that people can come and actively use it. I think the hard fork helps to get there, but Cardano's been extremely underwhelming, unfortunately. But I do think there's a turning point that can come. But I think they're running out of time as we get closer to ETH 2.0.
Yeah, I think um, it's not just circumstantial that it's happening at the same time,
Yep.
right? Because
Yeah.
ETH 2.0 is officially supposed to move forward in September, and both of these are major chapters for each network. So I'm excited for it. I think it'll be interesting to see how it develops. I think there's a place for all of them out there, and that brings us to the one that I'm not sure has a place out there anymore. So Solana, you may have heard of it. It's like Cardano, it's an ETH competitor, but it recently got hacked, and it got hacked in a big way. A number of people's phantom wallets and other wallets ended up getting drained, and they could not, for the life of them, figure
Figure it
out
out.
how the breach occurred. Richard, would you like to see what a red flag looks like?
To get hacked and have no idea how it happened.
Like, that's terrifying. That is downright terrifying. And I am not going to say that I like Solana, but I find it really funny that that happened to Solana. Because
They've just
again,
had so
it's
many
the
hacks, dude. It's
dude,
been
it's the most centralized of the Web3 ecosystems, bar none. Like, you can look at the actual cap tables for how it distributed to public versus private equity versus treasuries. They sold the vast majority of the ecosystem's tokens over to venture. And that
yep.
is such a red flag centralized ass move that it still blows my mind that they did it. But when you go to that point and the public and the community does not own the ecosystem, then how, like, there's no way to truly understand it at its core at like a community scale, right? You have to have more developers in the ecosystem. You have to have more open source developers wanting to participate in the ecosystem. And then when shit like this happens and they have no answer for it, it's like it's inexcusable. We need to be better than this in Web3. So I
And
laugh at this
it
all day
what
long.
what's even wilder about it, man, is that they essentially blamed Magic Eden, that there was a contract that if you engaged with Magic Eden within the last, like, I think, like, month or so, that you were potentially exposed to this. And so in response to that, Magic Eden was like, "Okay, bet." And for those who don't know, Magic Eden is the preferred, NFT, platform on top of Solana. So they're like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." They basically said, "We're gonna start listing ETH NFTs and start taking ETH payments." Like, they're basically saying, "We built on your platform. Now you're trying to point fingers at us. We're gonna expand." And I think, unfortunately, you're probably gonna see that happen with more and more platforms as Solana continues to get hacked.
But what's absolutely insane is that it then came out after the fact that their suspicion was wrongly placed. It wasn't Magic Eden at all, right? It was just the internal, like, couple of like bigger development shops around Solana that decided to point the finger at Magic Eden. It had nothing to do with them. So to
Yeah.
me, I think it's all insane. But it goes to show that, like, if you watch more of these NFT marketplaces start taking ETH payments and ETH listings for ETH NFTs, the NFT marketplace game is just starting to get heat. Like, it's really just starting to heat up. X2Y2 over the weekend, this is just a fun fact for you. Over last weekend, X2Y2 eclipsed OpenSea in volume. So to me, there ain't no better time for Magic Eden to hop into ETH because they're going to start bringing over more people that were starting out with NFTs over on Solana over into the ETH ecosystem, just as OpenSea started bringing more people that were involved in ETH NFTs over into the Solana ecosystem when they started listing Solana NFTs. It's all a matter of time, dude. And there's going to be more and more NFTs across different networks eventually getting listed on OpenSea, X2Y2, Solana, and not Solana, Magic Eden, and LooksRare.
Yeah.
Just wait. Tezos is coming. Like Cardano NFTs are coming. Like Cardano NFTs are a massive trend right now. Whichever one of these major ETH exchanges starts adding on Cardano NFTs first, dude, it's gonna be one of those moments, one of the big moments that we've been waiting for. So I'm excited for it. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but I think that Solana is ever so graciously burying itself week over week. So
Yeah, they gotta come out on the other side of this. They need to win.
yeah,
They
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 really
need
do
this
need
to win.
to, no question. But let's jump into the metaverse and talk a little bit about what's going on in NFTs and um, VR as it is in Web3. So this was an interesting story out last week regarding Tiffany's. And now you know Tiffany's for the Tiffany ring. And there's a number of other massive Tiffany jewelry products out there and even special edition like cards and stuff like that. They've announced that they're officially doing their first NFT project. And they didn't want to do this in any little way. No, they wanted to go as big as humanly possible by doing a limited run of 250 punk pendants, that is crypto punks. So they're selling exclusively to CryptoPunk holders. So you have to have a CryptoPunk in your wallet to go buy it. And you can go buy one of these NFTs for 30 ETH. That's right, 30. 3 followed by a 0 and then ETH. 30,
Oh
not
my god.
13, not 3, 30. Now, what's wild to me about this is that the way they plan on implementing it is it's a phygital project, meaning that they're going to have both a physical and a digital component. They'll sell you this NFT that looks like basically a static image across all 250 NFTs. When you redeem it, it will become a pendant version of your CryptoPunk. And then in addition to that, they will then send you or allow you to come pick up a pendant that's made up of diamonds and rubies and sapphires and like a whole bunch of other crystals that composes your CryptoPunk. It literally looks like your CryptoPunk. I love it. I think that it's the move that we needed to see happen because I think it says huge things for how they bring in the luxury market over into NFT